Hi, my name is Olivia Hagan, and this is my final project reflection. So, I worked with Jackson, who's going to be a seventh grader this year. He's really good at solving one step equations, and he also has a really strong understanding of basic operations like addition, subtraction, and so on. However, he really seemed to struggle with multi step equations, specifically with knowing what to tackle first to get x alone and then solve for x. He also seemed to have some anxiety about this. So I had him start off by completing a warm up activity that really helped refresh him on solving one step equations. And then I had him watch a very short YouTube video kind of introducing two step equations in order to try to reduce some of his anxiety. And then we moved right into the main activity, which was called Sink the Ships. This was set up for the student to solve multi step equations. And if they typed in the correct answer, the screen will turn green, or I should say the box will turn green. Um, and if you guess like the right part of the ship, then it'll show the part of the ship as a picture on it. The student wins when they find all parts of the three ships. I chose this activity because I felt like it specifically aligned with Jackson's needs in order to become more comfortable solving these complex equations, which is exactly what he was exposed to in this activity. Also, the North Dakota state standard that I utilize for this project is 7.ar.ee. Apply properties of operations as strategies to add, subtract, factor, and expand linear expressions involving variables, integers, and or non-negative fractions and decimals with an emphasis on writing equivalent expressions. So overall, I thought this experience went very well. I helped build rapport with Jackson by introducing myself as Miss Hagan, and it turns out that he actually remembered me from when I observed his history teacher's class last fall. And I also previously knew his mom, so that's kind of how I initially reached out to her and set this whole thing up. I also worked to help establish some more connections with Jackson by kind of telling him some of my hobbies, and he kind of did the same back. I really think making connections with students early on can make all the difference regarding their engagement, behavior, and interest in any activities moving forward. Again, I thought the warm up activity went very well and helped him kind of feel refreshed and confident before moving right into multi step equations. So the Sink the Ships game kept him very engaged throughout, and he also asked a lot of good questions, asked if he was doing it right. He really initially struggled with figuring out where to start, as in like which operations to complete first to try to find x, get x alone, and then solve for x, I should say. I helped him overcome this by telling him there really isn't one specific right way to start solving these. You kind of just pick and choose what you want to start with, and then you kind of go from there. And this seemed to help a little bit. I also introduced Jackson to virtual algebra tiles to serve as some online manipulatives so that he could easily visually see the different values of the equations laid out nicely into compact tiles. He definitely responded well to this, and it seemed like it really clicked for him. The visually seeing and creating, like with these blocks to represent the equations, really seemed to click for him. And he really didn't seem to struggle much after he set up those questions like that using the tiles. He definitely seemed more confident towards the end of the activity, and he seemed a lot less anxious than when he started, that's for sure. I think one thing that I would do differently next time would be to probably slow down the pace of this activity by breaking it into some smaller chunks of information and probably like spanning it over at least like 2 days instead of just one. While I definitely think Jackson did a great job overall, I think it could be a little overwhelming for any student to complete an activity like this when they're not necessarily confident in their abilities to solve. In this case, it was multi step equations. And again, it's the summertime, so it is definitely harder to reinforce these concepts on a consistent enough basis. But overall, I had a great time. It was really fun seeing him become very engaged and excited and less scared of multi step equations. So that is all I have. Thank you for watching.